What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Price to Sell podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Campoli, and today we are going to be living life on our own terms.
Whoa.
Right? Not bad. We're going to have... I want to share a quick story. My guest today brought me to their office, and they had me on their podcast, which is awesome. And I had such a good experience because you guys are so hospitable. Gave me a shirt, a book. I was really blown away. I had to call my mom after and be like, what a morning I had. Like, that's how impacted I was.
Are you being serious right now? Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I want to extend a thanks to you because I don't think I did or had a chance to after. But we have Tom Karadza from Rockstar Real Estate in the building. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks. It's an honor to be here. And thank you for sharing that. You blew us away when you came on, learning everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the world is your oyster. We are pumped to see you over the next 10 years. Yeah, for sure.
And I wore your shirt to the gym the other day, so it's in the wash. I really wanted to wear it today.
Hey, you can find out whatever excuse you want to use to not have it on today. That's totally fine.
Yeah, but
that shirt was an $8 value, I'll have you know.
And it fits really well, I must say. So
hey, when you get the extra small, that's what you get.
It's true. But yeah, thank you for coming. I mean, a lot of people know about Rockstar Real Estate, know about the podcast. I heard about it before. Then I came on the pod, and then ever since I left, not even because of the podcast, I just kept hearing about it. You guys have such an amazing reputation. You know?
Cool. Thank you.
And you guys work, you are in real estate investors, for real estate investors. So I think that's really cool. But let's give the audience a little bit of a background into who you are, Rockstar, all of that.
Sure. So Tom Karadza, honored to be here. Thank you for having us here. I was in the corporate world. I did everything right. Went to high school, went to university, got the good job after high school, went in the tech industry, hated my life, was going to put my head through the drywall wall if I worked in the corporate world any longer. So when I was about 32 or 33, quit my job with my brother. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there weren't realtors working with his investors as they are today. So I know that might be hard to believe, but back in 2000 to 2005 or 6, there wasn't this big real estate community, and especially realtors who were working with investors. So we thought, why don't we just quit our jobs? We'll get our real estate licenses and help the investors because we couldn't find realtors to help us. So we'll be the solution. So we got our real estate license, quit our jobs, started Rockstar Real Estate officially in 2008. I quit my job in 2007, but officially started Rockstar in 2008.
Great year to start, eh?
Yeah, great financial crisis. Everyone was telling us the whole world's gonna, end. Yeah. Real estate's gonna crash in Canada to nothing. And now we have a team of, about 60 licensed people, another 12 people in the office. So there's, 60, 70 of us at Rockstar. We've done several $1 billion in investments with our investors that we're helping them buy. And we have a wonderful team now. And it's been a great ride. We host multiple events through the year for our investors, and we just try to lead with value. We try to educate people. We try to explain why you want to get into real estate, how you survive in real estate. Mm-hmm. How do you stay in the game when interest rates go way up like they're going up now?
Yeah.
How do you build a portfolio that's going to carry you through that? So it started from quitting our jobs because I hated the corporate world to building this business, and we're grateful.
Yeah. I love your motto, right? Living life on your own terms. I think it's super powerful. And you guys, so it's definitely inspired by hating the corporate world, right? Do you feel like, so I'd like to talk about that because my audience is a lot of real estate agents, but also maybe people who want to get in the business that might feel stuck, maybe in that exact position. So let's talk about that. Why do people feel stuck?
I think people feel stuck because listen, when I was young, you could have one parent work and support a whole family. Mm-hmm. And then 10 or 20 years later, you needed two parents to work to be able to support a family. And even now with the Canadians that we meet, even two people working can't support a family to the point where they have savings. Mm-hmm. And then you have millennials coming out into this generation and the generation after that getting into the workforce, and they feel like they can't make enough money to even rent, never mind buy, and then save. So I think a lot of people feel stuck because the way the money system is designed, incomes don't keep up with prices or inflation. So if you aren't in a position where you're setting yourself up with assets to outpace inflation, you feel stuck. You're never going to get ahead. Your income We mapped Canadian incomes against real estate prices, and I don't have the chart here to show everyone, but incomes kind of go up at like this pace,
Yeah.
and real estate prices go up like at this
Yeah, it's
pace.
true.
So if you don't have hard assets in your life, you can't outpace inflation just with an income alone. So you feel stuck, you can't take vacations, there's no savings, you get frustrated, and you don't know why. But at the bottom of it, or the base of it, is the money system is designed to inflate, and most people can't earn enough money to outpace that inflation, so they feel stuck in their life. And that's where I feel like we're trying to help people, where we're saying, okay, listen, we don't think real estate is the be all and end all to everything, but it's one hard asset that seems to outpace inflation. So if you can own a few hard assets in your life, you're going to have some financial base that hopefully will allow you to live your life on your own terms. And I just felt like going through school, it was a complete ripoff. Like, I did all the right things. I got high marks in high school. I went to university. I was supposed to go into engineering. I didn't. I ended up with a psychology degree. But I went to university. I got the good job in tech after, and I still couldn't. I feel like I still felt trapped.
Yeah.
And so it took me understanding the monetary system, understanding how money worked, understanding that you needed hard assets in your life to feel like you could get ahead financially. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to everybody in Rockstar. Like, what is it about real estate that is good? You know, instead of just everyone argues about real estate prices. Like, let's put that aside for a minute. At the base layer, how does the money system work? Why is it that real estate tends to outpace inflation? Why are real estate prices going the way they are? And in Canada, in Ontario specifically, there's many reasons for that, but we try to get to the base layer and try to understand, where does all this frustration come from?
Yeah.
I'm not just going on a rant, Matt.
That's a great rant. I'm going to dive more into it.
Yeah.
So how do people, first off, I totally agree with the way things are set up, the way we're taught to go on this linear path. That just leads to
nowhere,
stress and your stuckness. And unless you're going to do your own research or have a conversation like this, or be put in a room to think outside the box, majority of people just go down that road. And it sucks. It's so unfortunate, because we all have so much potential. But for those that are maybe starting to open up their minds and seeing this pathway, a lot of people, there's still a lot of resistance because people don't know how, number one. Or they say, okay, yeah, but I have that finite income. How can I step into that real estate space with prices so high? So how are you guys navigating that, or what would your advice be to someone in that position right now?
Yeah, you're asking really important questions. I guess there's two primary ways. One way is to find a couple buddies and do a joint venture of some sort, or house hack. Get into a property where you can live on one level and rent out another level. So either do a house hacking kind of approach, or get a couple buddies together and raise enough money together where you can get into the real estate game as a group. So there's a young guy in our office in his 20s. I think he's on his 4th property now, and that's the way he's doing it, right? Leveraging his friends to get together. They've understood deeply why they should get into real estate, and that's what they're doing. And then the other side, so that's one kind of approach, those two things, like an A-B thing, house hack or joint venture. The other approach is to have some kind of side hustle. And that really took me down the kind of rabbit hole of marketing, and like, how can I make income aside from my corporate job on the side that would help me achieve the financial goals that I want to achieve? And that took us down a path of understanding, how do you get a client? How do you get a customer? How do I get someone to text me out of the blue, or walk in the door, or make the phone ring? And once you understand marketing at a really deep level, and not just at a tactical level, like, there's 3 layers to anything that you're going to go into. There's principles, strategies, and tactics. And most people will look at things at a tactical level. So in marketing, for example, some realtors might look at things that you do and say, hey, Matt, look at what Matt's doing on Instagram. That must be working. Matt's doing it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to do that on Instagram. That's a tactic. They don't understand the principles and the strategic implementation of those principles to make that work. So the second thing is to really go down at a principle-based level and understand marketing and sales at a deep level, and apply that to some other business as your side hustle, and grow another stream of income on the side. So that's kind of like the 2 ways. You're going to house hack or do joint ventures, or start a side hustle, get really good at marketing, and understand it at a principle level.
Because that could take you far in any
And anyway,
vertical,
that's pure freedom.
Yeah.
Like, having a real estate portfolio is very freeing. There's no doubt. And I feel like for myself and my brother, and if I hadn't mentioned, we started Rockstar Real Estate together, my brother and I. Nick.
Yeah.
And it's very freeing having assets that produce income. And over time, you know, when you're my age now, I'm 50, and the debt is lower on the properties and the income starts increasing on the properties, it is very freeing. But I'll tell you, the most freeing things that we've ever been able to introduce in our lives is our marketing and sales understanding, because I feel like I could be dropped in the middle of Italy, in the middle of Mexico, in the middle of anywhere in the world, and I can start a business and I'll know how to get customers. And that to me is complete peace of mind for myself and my family.
Yeah.
Right? So for sure. Yeah.
I agree. And we were talking about that earlier, because you're talking about how, like, my Instagram and the socials, like, yeah, we're starting to get on there now too. And it's cool and all, but I'm starting to implement the side of the business now where I'm going harder on the marketing side, the more targeted approach, the more systemized approach, which you guys excel at. So I think that foundation, regardless of having a social media presence or whatever, if you don't have that foundation set up, things are just going to get lost in the cracks and just fall through, and it becomes a mess, right? So I'd love to dive into that more, into maybe some like key principles or some key things that people should maybe look into if they want to go down that path with marketing.
Yeah, I guess there's three big things in marketing to understand that have really helped us. The first is one of our mentors really taught us to think about at a high level, what market are you addressing? What is the message you are communicating to your market? And what media are you putting that in? And what most people in any business, whether it's realtors or otherwise, they've never thought about, like, really deeply, what market am I serving? So for our business, it's real estate investors.
Yeah.
And then if you've decided that's going to be real estate investors is the market you're serving, then what is the message we want to communicate? And the message is really important, because the message, if it's clear, you will have a lot of people self-identify to you and saying, hey, Matt, you know, I'm raising my hand. I want to work with you. So our message was, we don't do stuff in downtown Toronto. We don't do pre-construction condos. We don't do things, we focus on things that are cash flowing real estate around the greater Toronto area. And we don't really do flips. So if you want to find a single family home rental that cash flows outside of Toronto, we are your people.
Yeah.
And all our content was on that. So if somebody wanted to buy a pre-construction condo, they knew, really, don't call us.
Yeah.
That's not for us.
Yeah.
And we just honed in on, like, Hamilton, Barrie, Oshawa area. These are the communities that we're working in. We're looking for cash flow, and we're looking for single family homes. As our business has grown, I should say, now we do everything.
Yeah.
We have people on the team who do pre-construction condos, and we're on all parts of the city. But when you're starting, it's very important to really dial in on your message. Whereas most people do the opposite. They say, oh my gosh, I do everything. I do pre-con, I do cash flowing properties, I'll do vacation homes north of the city. I'll help you do anything you want.
Yeah.
And when you communicate that way, people don't hear you.
Yes,
Because you're not answering what they're thinking. Essentially, another principle in marketing, aside from that kind of triangle that I was just explaining of, like, you know, what is your market, what's your message, and what media are you putting your message in? Another thing to think about is, what is the conversation going on in the mind of your customer? Who is your customer, and what is the conversation going on in their mind? Answer that question. The problem that they can't stop thinking about, you should come to the market with the answer to that question. Stop telling me you're a realtor. Stop telling me that you focus on a certain type of property. Tell me the answer to what your customer is always thinking about. When they go to bed at night, what are they losing sleep over? You have the answer to that question, and people will ring you up. So that's kind of like one way to start thinking about principles of marketing. Another one is, what is the relationship that you have with your current clients? So we were just talking about your database earlier. How many clients do you have? We started with like 7 email addresses, and we called them, those are our clients that we will communicate with. Now we're much larger, but at the beginning it was 7. And we thought, that is the relationship we have with those 7 people is everything. How can we communicate to them consistently? Because consistently and consistent communication builds trust.
Yeah.
And people buy from people they trust. How can we produce value or offer value to them? And then how can we be interesting to them? So can we share stories of our lives and kind of what we're doing? So what is the relationship that you have with your current client base? Is it something that you really are paying attention to? Do you follow up with them consistently? Are you offering value, and are you interesting? Or are you just so corporate Are you such a corporate realtor that like every email that comes from you, we know is like, you have the best listing ever. It's a jewel box. Like it's the best. Are you offering other value to your clients? So if you do those 3 things to your database and do that repeatedly, that is just operating at a principal level. You're operating above people who are just doing things on Instagram. And then the last thing would be feeding and growing that database. And most people, this is why I like what you're doing. Most people just compete at the stage of marketing where the buyer, if we continue to use real estate as an example, at the point that they are willing to buy, are ready to buy. So people will say, hey, if you're going to buy, reach out to me, I'm a realtor.
Yes.
But that is the most crowded space.
It's true.
If you talk about sales funnels and you reverse back a little bit, before people are ready to buy a condo, they might be thinking about buying a condo. They might be debating, is real estate good or are stocks good?
Okay.
They might be deciding, should they buy in Toronto or should they buy in Calgary if it's an investment? Or should they buy a family home in Toronto or should they move to Guelph? Well, these are all the questions that are going on in the prospect's mind and your potential client's mind. Well, if you just step back and produce value by answering some of those questions for them, you'll be developing a relationship with them earlier in the sales process where there's less competition.
It's true.
Then when they're ready to buy, they're going to use you because you've been following up them, you've been offering good content, offering value to them, and then they have trust.
Yeah.
So that's why I really appreciate what you're doing, especially on things like Instagram, because to me, I'm not just watching what you're doing on Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, Matt's smart here. He's producing funny stuff. And, it gets people to trust you and pay attention. You're interesting, so that people are engaged with you earlier in the sales process and you have less competition at that stage. So we're covering a lot of ground here. I don't know if this is the kind of stuff that you wanted to talk about.
No, this is awesome. And it's funny because, again, like I kind of went into my whole business blind, winging it, whatever feels right, intuitively, right? So it's funny.
You seem to have done really well going in blind, so good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So you know what? Forget everything I just said. You just keep doing what you're doing.
No, but it's cool to hear this perspective because it's like the aha moments are going on in my head too, and I think it's freaking genius about the crowded space because it's so true, right?
That's where everyone competes.
Everyone's Instagram bio is like, buy, sell, invest.
Yeah.
Lease.
I'm top 3% in Canada. I'm top 1% in Canada.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, just approach me when you're ready to buy, sell, lease, land, commercial.
Yeah. You know better than I do. Is that what they do?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, but it's true. And you guys do, we're talking about your events, right? And I think that's really smart too, because first off, you're getting people in front of you there in the actual room. So they can, not going to touch you, but like they could be around you.
Yeah, develop
Maybe
a
they touch your shoulder or something, or your elbow.
Sure. Yeah.
But you're developing that relationship and they're building that trust.
Yeah, totally.
So let's talk about your events. I think that's genius. I think people need to take advantage of that more and do more of these.
Yeah, so I guess where the events came from is we looked at our database of potential clients and existing clients, and we thought, how can we offer more value than other people in this space? And we thought, okay, why don't we just host customer appreciation events, but let's not call them customer appreciation events. Let's call them your life, your terms events. And let's not make them sales events. Let's just have events where people come out and we share value. So we can educate them about interest rates and the economy and why you might feel frustrated or not getting ahead. And then let's educate them about different parts of Ontario or different real estate investing strategies. Why do student rentals really work? What are the pros and cons of student rentals? How can you build legal accessory units properly in different places? And let's just educate and share value, have people come out, have a good time, play some music. Let's make fun of real estate a little bit. Let's openly talk about what a pain in the ass it is and how it kind of sucks a lot of times. As an investor, holding properties kind of sucks. Let's be open about that.
Yeah.
So let's do these things 2 or 3 times a year and let's see how they go. And they started with 60 people and now we were just talking, our next one, we're hoping that for the first time we'll have over 1,000 people in the room. That's our goal. Which is huge. It's been a long run. But those events have become a really great thing. And for realtors specifically, you don't get to hang out with your clients all the time. It's not like a gym business or a cafe. So it's another opportunity for your clients to come out, hang out with you. You can get media content. You can take pictures with clients. You can share it on your social media. So it's an expense. They definitely cost money. I know you just hosted like a you made our event look like, something kind of casual compared to the glorious thing that you're putting on here, making us look bad, man. You got to dial it back a little bit. But, you get all that content that you can then share on social media and that kind of stuff. So it serves multiple purposes, these events.
Yeah.
But the next one's at the International Center. We're pumped. It's in October. I can't wait. And that's why we do it. Just trying to, back to the principles, how do we produce value for our database of clients? So can we, instead of just coming out and then pitching you to buy properties, can you come out and we just share good information?
Yes.
And you walk away from that feeling good and saying, wow, that was really nice of them to do that. Can we create that moment? Right. And that's what we're trying to do with the events.
And the key thing you said is it's not a sales event.
It's not a sales event. Yeah.
No one wants to be sold.
Nobody wants to be sold.
Yeah.
And you know what? It separates you because if you have an event and you're just pitching some project that you're promoting, you come across like every other realtor. And you don't want to be like every other realtor. Mm-hmm. If everyone's doing that, you want to do the direct opposite. It's a motto we live by.
Yes. It's smart.
Yeah, like if everyone's doing one thing, do the exact opposite. It's like the biggest cheat code in life. If every realtor is doing something, do the exact opposite, and you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
I know you recently had, was it Daniel Foch?
Yeah, Foch.
If you look at what he's doing, he's quite brilliant. Like he's really just on social media talking about the economy and economic data, and he's doing it really deeply, and people are finding that very valuable. And I'm sure he's getting a lot of business from that.
100%.
But that's his niche. That's what he likes to talk. Obviously, he loves to talk about it. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
So he's kind of going deep in there, and it's kind of working for him.
Definitely. Yeah, it's when you're highlighting these examples of these people and how they're doing things. Like I had a similar thought process when I started too, of thinking, let me go the complete opposite route, because I just wasn't agreeing with like every agent literally is crossing their arms in their photo.
Yeah, are they? Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
So I did my first headshot piece, and I did the same thing. I'm like, but why am I doing that though?
Yeah,
I had to question myself.
Yeah,
like why did I just do that?
Yeah,
so I had to retake my photos.
Good for you.
Because it makes no body language.
We banned business when we started, and we started growing a team. We banned everybody from having their pictures on their card.
Okay.
Because we're like, every realtor. I never thought about it. You're right. Their arms are crossed, but every realtor has their picture on their card. We're like, no one at Rockstar is allowed. One guy finally broke the rule.
Yeah.
One guy, I guess, he thinks he's something. I don't want to say his name right now, but he finally broke the rule. But we're like, no one is allowed to have their picture on their card, because we just want to be the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So same kind of thinking. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you. And then, that just translated into more like, okay, I did that differently. And now all agents are doing their videos like this. Let me do this differently. But it's a very simple concept that is super powerful, and it works. And I just like it. Thank you for highlighting that, because I think it's very important.
No, and the next stage for you, if you're now focusing on your database, this is where you're going to get really dangerous. And I mean this in a good way going forward, because a lot of people in business, and again, especially realtors, they will know things like a cost per lead, like, oh, how much did it cost me to get that lead? But they won't understand data metrics like cost per customer, or cost per new actual buying client, and then things like lifetime value of a client. And the reason these things are important to you in any business that you're going to go into is that if you understand the lifetime value of a client, it will dictate to you how much you can spend to acquire them. So what I mean by that, if you looked at all the clients that you've done business with, and you just take the gross revenue that you've earned from there and divide it by the total amount of people in your database, well, that dollar figure now would tell you, oh my gosh, everyone in my database is worth X number of dollars to me. Well, let's just say that number came to $500.
Yeah.
Well, now it's worth $500 to you to put somebody in your database.
Yes.
How much are you willing to spend to get them?
It's
Maybe
true.
if you're bidding $20 a click on Facebook or Instagram, that's way too little. Because if they're worth $500, if every single person that enters your database is ultimately going to be worth $500 to you, maybe you should bid a bit higher.
Yeah.
Maybe you should bid $100, $150, $200, $250. Maybe you can do $450. If you can spend $450, you're out competing your competition. I would gladly exchange every day. If I gave you $450 and you give me $500 back, I would make that trade all day long.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of things I think, especially people in real estate and other businesses, don't spend enough time thinking about.
That's very true.
And when you get clarity on that, it kind of dictates a lot of things. You can figure out how much you're able to spend on marketing. Whereas most people are just trying to figure out, like, what's my marketing budget this year? And to us, that's the wrong question. It's not what is your marketing budget, is what is the lifetime value of a client to you? Figure out those numbers, and that will dictate how much you can spend to acquire new clients,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And that's another thing too, where like, a lot of people's pain point is with the tracking.
With the,
you know?
and it is horrible. And it does suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, tracking all your leads and your database management, yes.
Do you have any tools that help you automate that? Or
Nothing
you guys are
great.
plugging in yourself?
We use an older CRM because when we started, it was an older CRM system. But we will not send any traffic anywhere unless we can track it. So unless we can track the traffic,
Yeah.
we're not really interested in paying for that traffic.
And you guys have someone who specializes in marketing? Or?
We have a team in-house now.
Yeah, and I think that's so crucial nowadays too.
Yeah.
How much has that helped?
Yeah, that's been everything. Nick and
Right.
I now consider ourselves kind of almost like the chief marketing officers of the business.
Yeah.
And having the team in-house and being able to train them, it's been huge. You know, I know we talked about your database a little bit, and you know, we're just talking about that all the time. We're looking at that data weekly, and having marketing people in-house is definitely a differentiator for sure.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Very admirable.
Thanks.
No problem. So nearing the ending segment here, love to pick your brains, considering you've been dabbling since early 2000s, right? And then getting into the business in 2008. And just to circle back to what you said earlier of how everyone thought the market was just going to crash, Canadian real estate's going to crash. We're going through a similar time, right? In terms of the psychology. Yeah. So what's your take on everything happening right now?
So with like interest rates being relatively really high.
And based on your experience and maybe if you can like see a pattern here.
Sure. So I lived through the 1990s, and our family almost lost everything in real estate when our father was flipping properties and interest rates went up really quickly, and everybody got caught. And I guess there's two answers to the question, is that, you know, there is an importance to liquidity as a real estate investor at all times. You have to have a certain amount of your net worth or a certain amount of access to liquid cash to survive. And sometimes when real estate prices are going up for like 10 years, people get a little bit too excited and they forget that there's really like three buckets to a successful long-term strategy to us anyway. One bucket is how liquid are you at all times? The second bucket is your long-term savings. How are you holding that? And the third is what cash flow do you have coming in? Is it properties or a side hustle business? What does your income look like? And most people don't focus enough on the first bucket, like how liquid you are. So I guess when I see a time like this, it reminds me of the 1990s, and the people who survived had access to liquidity at all times, and they didn't hold on to assets out of ego. They would sell an asset if they needed to, or sell a property if you need to. So I'm having flashbacks to 1990. It was a horrible time for us during that time. Our family got through it, but I mean, CRA froze my father's bank account, and like, it was nasty. That time was nasty. But what I will tell you, and what I do remember, is that prices went down for 6 years in 1990, which I don't think is going to be the case this time. But real estate transactions only slowed down for 12 months.
Okay.
So real estate transactions went from really high to bottoming for 12 months, and then a year later they were right back. Okay. And the reason that they were right back was that a lot of people had to start selling.
Yes.
And so anyone in this business going through this time, and if you're wondering like, holy shit, you know, can I survive through this? I think there is going to be activity, because unfortunately there's going to be some people selling. So you're going to get some listings, and there's going to be some more activity. Even in a tight market, I really think there'll be transactions out there for everyone to survive. And then longer term, when it comes to interest rates and prices, I really think this is a short-term blip. Okay. That when there's this much debt in Canada and this much debt in the US, our neighbor, and this much debt in the world, the global central banks, and I'm sure, you know, they can't keep interest rates higher than inflation for very long, because when the debt is much higher than the economy, you can't have the debt grow faster than the economy, because there won't be enough money in the economy, which is much smaller, to pay for the interest on all the debt.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a bluff. It's almost like playing poker with these central banks. And I kind of look at them, this is my opinion only, that I look at them and I say, I think this is a nice game that you guys are playing, but you're not going to be able to hold interest rates for very long. Maybe another 6 months, maybe a year, but there's going to be something that pops up that is going to force their hand to inject some liquid money, which will help the real estate market. And because of that, I also think real estate prices are going to run here over the next 10 years. Ontario specifically, I mean, our supply-demand dynamic is so out of whack. We need about 150,000 family units a year.
Yeah.
We build about 70. It's trending down right now. Our population's absolutely exploding.
Yeah.
And if interest rates change at some point in our future, I think it's going to be a really strong run for real estate here. And some of that is unfortunate because it's going to price people out of the market. It's going to make, you know, rent really expensive. But I think that's the reality of where Ontario is sitting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well put. I can agree, and it's cool to hear your perspective. So you think the 90s was obviously much worse, much longer.
Yeah, and there wasn't as much debt in the world, right?
Yeah.
So you could hold interest rates higher for longer because you could afford to.
Yeah.
But when the debt in Canada is as big as it is, our debt is about 130% of our GDP. It depends on how you measure it. Canada plays some games and they call our net debt less than that, but our gross debt is higher than our GDP. You can't have interest rates really high because there's just not functionally enough free dollars in the economy to pay for the interest on the debt. And what happens is that interest is sucking money out of the economy. So the economy is shrinking, which means the government's tax revenues shrink, which means they have to print more money and inflate the system more, which then drives hard assets like real estate. Like the whole thing is, it's just not sustainable to keep high rates in an environment where debt is this high. Unlike the 90s, where they could keep them relatively high during that period because debt was much lower. So they could, quote unquote, afford to.
Yes.
Whereas right now, I say good luck to them. My money says, and I'm just guessing, I don't have the crystal ball.
100%.
But my money says no way. Like I'm the guy at the card table staring at them with their you know, with their hand going like, you guys are bluffing. It's not higher for longer. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So who knows?
So for those that maybe are liquid right now, do you think there's a lot of opportunity right now?
Yeah. Every time I've seen an environment like this, there is opportunity because of our supply and demand dynamics are so out of whack.
That's so true.
That absolutely, if you can find a property, and I think we're recording this in the summer, the next 6 months specifically, I think there's going to be some really great opportunities because unfortunately some people are going to need to sell because they haven't been liquid enough. So yes, I think we're entering a time where 5 years from now, we'll hear about people who said, oh, you know what, I bought, in 2023.
Yeah.
And wow, didn't that work out well?
Yes.
So yes,
sure.
I do think there are opportunities.
And it's that same concept that it's the theme. It's like you said with the realtors. It's like what every agent is doing, the opportunity is to go the opposite route.
Absolutely.
Same thing with investors right now. Because a lot of the fear and psychology says, let's wait or not do anything. Like things are bad. So
and it's a dangerous thing for me to say because if you're not liquid enough and you can't hold on, don't just go buy anything.
For sure.
You need to have a long-term plan. You need to buy the right property in the right
advice,
area. Absolutely. Not just be silly about this, but if you're smart about it, for sure.
Definitely.
It's the opposite of what everyone's doing. And universally over my life, that has been the best thing to always do. So it's great that you see that already.
Yeah, we shared that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Totally.
Well, Tom, you've been awesome, man.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I'd love to shout out, let's plug in Rockstar, plug in yourself, that event in October.
Sure,
so where
yeah.
people can find you guys.
On Instagram, it's at Rockstar Inner Circle, and our website is rockstarinnercircle.com, and the event details will be on that website, and the brokerage is Rockstar Real Estate, and yeah, that's it.
And kick-ass podcast, Rockstar Inner Circle.
Yeah, off Rockstar Inner Circle. You can find our podcast too. Yeah, it's called Your Life, Your Terms. And thanks, Matt. Really pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, of course.
You.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Likewise. And yeah, guys, check out his podcast. The value here is just forever on there with amazing guests, including myself.
Totally.
On one.
Yes.
But there's some other really good guests, I promise. But to everyone out there, thank you always for tuning in. Please don't forget to rate us a 5-star. And if you don't, I'll find you on Geo Warehouse because I know where you live. And tell your friends, family, and uncles to watch the podcast. Other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.